what we built is sort of what we call the human intelligence model. And the idea is to try to emulate a real human and the way that they actually think and act, right? So the system has a number of parts to it. There's a personality engine, which is learning from the content and your interactions and engagement online. So a big part of the system is like a digital twin. So we like mirror what you're doing online and we learn from it. So we can see how you write, we can see how you engage, we see what types of things you engage with. That's the personality part. The second part is the skills engine. What the skills does is almost like training a child, right? Like they learn new skills, they learn how to crawl, then to walk, etc. So we're developing different skills as well internal to the system, like how do I write, or how do I speak, or how do I learn, or how do I read, right? And so we are able to observe a lot of this behavior, but the secret to the system ultimately is that it's a human-backed AI. So unlike traditional AI where you're completely talking to a computer that's maybe just indexed a bunch of information, in our world, the consumer has the opportunity to come in and claim their sort of own digital twin and then participate in the economics of it.
Welcome back to the Block Fuel podcast. Today we are with Greg and Isaac from Beelines.ai. So you're the CTO and you are the head of business development and marketing, you said right now. So I've known Isaac for quite some time, and Greg, we had talked, I think it was in Austin. I'll start with you, Greg.
So, I think the problem we're trying to solve for is most organizations don't have access to insights at the scale that they need them to operate. And so what Beelines does is we provide a platform to help companies basically simulate their customer base or their audience, wherever it may be, and basically be able to tap into it at an affordable way, but more importantly, all the time so that they can get insights and make more informed decisions.
So I like to use examples just so I can wrap my head around it. And our audience is a lot of Web3 native, but we're trying to build the bridge to expand it from our little bubble that we live in, right? So if I'm Nike, for example, and I want to use Beelines and I'm looking for, would it be like something like I want 18 to 24-year-old women for this new shoe that's coming out?
Yeah, absolutely great use case. The easiest concept to map to is probably like a focus group, right? Or a lookalike audience, right? So if you're a traditional marketer, you may be doing social media marketing, direct response marketing, et cetera. Got like a persona or personas that you're trying to reach. You develop copy and then you're hoping it's going to work. But today you usually would A/B test that in the real world with dollars, right? And then what if it's giving the wrong impression? So with us, you can simulate that effort instead of actually running it in the wild to sort of pre-vet content.
So to give you an idea, it's sort of using the Nike example, right? Nike has a bunch of different personas. You have the runners, you have people that are biking, you have a bunch of different sports audiences. So in our world, Nike would actually be able to build an artificial audience of women that are runners within a specific age, backed by real data. And then they could actually speak with these people. Like, how would women in the age from 30 to 50, what are they looking for? What type of shoes are they looking for? What type of clothes are they looking for? Like, you could actually speak to these agents that represent real humans to better understand what they want or what they need from them.
How do you guys go about that and create those personas and these AI agents kind of for, multiple different people that have different personalities?
Sure. Yeah. I guess we mentioned it's an AI platform. Behind the scenes, what we built is sort of what we call the human intelligence model. And the idea is to try to emulate a real human and the way that they actually think and act. Right. So the system has a number of parts to it. There's a personality engine, which is learning from the content and your interactions and engagement online. So a big part of the system is like a digital twin. So we like mirror what you're doing online and we learn from it. So we can see how you write, we can see how you engage, we see what types of things you engage with. That's the personality part. The second part is the skills engine. What the skills does is almost like training a child. Right? Like they learn new skills, they learn how to crawl, then to walk, et cetera. So we're developing different skills as well internal to the system, like how do I write, or how do I speak, or how do I learn, or how do I read, right? And so we are able to observe a lot of this behavior, but the secret to the system ultimately is that it's a human-backed AI. So unlike traditional AI where you're completely talking to a computer that's maybe just indexed a bunch of information, in our world, the consumer has the opportunity to come in and claim their sort of own digital twin and then participate in the economics of it.
Yeah. So from the human side, what we've done is really just gamify the experience, right? So human comes in, they connect with their different social accounts. Once they connect their social accounts, we can actually see how they're writing, how they're commenting, how they're engaging across either Twitter, Farcaster, different social accounts, building up sort of that profile. But on the second part, really just building also like their interest, right? So we gamified it where now we ask them different questions to better understand variety of different things, right? What is their personality, right? Are you an
Mhm.
introvert or an extrovert, right? Or are you interested in snowboarding or skiing, right? We go in and actually ask different questionnaires where you're actually just training your own AI model of what you like. And as you go through the game of the experience, you just start unlocking different tools where now you can actually talk to yourself, talk to your own AI agent, and continue training it to
Yep.
improve them.
Got
Right?
it.
And as you improve your model and as you become an expert in specific fields, now you have a higher opportunity to get hit whenever a brand comes in and says, "Hey, I'm looking for a woman that is a runner that runs over X amount of miles." If this character, this digital twin, has that data, now they have the opportunity to go in into that focus group that Nike's looking to hire and have their AI agent participate and communicate and share their feedback.
That's awesome. And I've actually done a few focus groups back in the day when I was broke and just started in New York. I'd sit there for an hour for like $100 or whatever it
Yep.
was. And it's a good time. How often, I don't know if it's like API pings, how often are you guys updating the persona?
Yeah.
I'll give that to Greg. He's our head
Sure.
of product, so he knows more about that than
Yeah. Well, look, I think it's an always on effort, right?
Mm.
So, and to Isaac's point, I think probably important to note, we can do this without the human interacting.
Right. Okay.
It's just that it gets significantly better
Stronger,
once the
yeah.
human is involved. Nikita, I think the business model at heart of it is we don't think traditional research is dead or not important, but if you go to a Nielsen or something like that, you might end up spending 90, 100, $150,000. It takes you 6, 8, 12 weeks to organize a study.
Yeah.
But we're operating in real time here now, right? And so
Cool.
that's not an operational thing. However, for bigger investments, that human allows us to bubble up to a real person,
Right.
right? If they want to talk to that person, right? Now, good question about like sort of the knowledge. The third part of the system I didn't mention is like knowledge and memory. The knowledge and memory is kind of, we're constantly ingesting from wherever we encounter. Right. So if you keep tweeting and your Twitter account's connected,
Right. Change
we're
over
seeing your
time.
retweets. Yeah. And here's the reality, right? Part of what we thought, like, or what we observed was problematic is you've used AI to generate things, right? You kind of get this, they call it slop.
Right.
Like everything kind of sounds the same. And that's kind of the problem, right? Is that you don't really get a human response. You
Mhm.
get a good response, but who is it? Right. And so like if you're Nike, I know the person I want to reach. I don't want to reach a generic person. There's a
Right.
real person on the other end of it. And if you think like historically for marketing, we've always wanted to achieve the idea of like one-to-one marketing, but it's been cross prohibitive, right? You can't tailor a campaign all the way through.
Mm.
This is sort of starting to approach and
Yeah, I
approximate
was
that a
thinking
lot
that.
better.
I was in MarTech before this and was working on behavioral analytics, and we had
Exactly.
to aggregate
Yeah.
data.
You get micro niches and all that stuff.
Yeah, but even
right?
then,
Yeah.
there's 10 personas on the website,
That's
right?
right,
And
yeah.
you kind of do your best. So this is fascinating, actually. Like in terms of, well, two questions, I guess. One is what happens if someone's not very talkative, right? So like there's people online that are read only.
Yeah,
their
yeah,
users,
absolutely
for
makes
So
sense.
example,
Yeah.
right?
there's two perspectives to it, right? There's the human in the loop, and then there's the full synthetic audience.
Yeah.
If you're Nike and you already have a bunch of your own personas, we allow you through the platform to come in and actually build up all those different characters.
Okay.
So you're saying I have all this data on who are my ideal personas, and you could already just ingest that and sort of create your own private ecosystem of agents that you're developing on your own data.
Got it.
So that's like step one.
Yep.
Right. Step two then is how do you actually get the human in the loop to then continue training that model and getting it strong? So even if the human's not in the loop, I think there's still a lot of power that a brand could get without needing the human in the loop. But for the Web3 part of it, and also just like a better ecosystem getting to sort of that edge, you want that human to come in to really personalize and get it, train it to be a better responsive that's more human.
But
Yep.
to your question, I think specifically like around like a low data person, they just won't surface a lot.
Got
Right?
it, okay.
Because like the training data becomes the
Right.
it's part of the discovery engine. If you don't say a lot, no one's going to notice you, right?
Right.
The more trained you are, the more connected you are, the more information you are, the better it is for the brand to sort of discover you as well.
Yeah. Now, other questions. I've done some of these studies. I almost, I'd want to continue to stay in the study, right? And so like I was thinking like, what's the answer? So in some ways, is this even better than, because you don't have the human trying to gamify the answers to like continue or whatnot. Could this actually almost like the AI knows the person better than they know themselves in a sense?
Yeah, I forgot who we were talking to the other night, but someone was saying there's like 3 versions of a person. There's
Yeah.
like the person you want to be, there's the person, the way people see you, right? And then there's the person that you actually are, right? Like, and so that's kind of true in the AI world as well, right? Like in any world, right? Like what are you manifesting when you train your twin? Are you training it as your persona online, or are you training as the person you really are internally? Now, for example, like if we were building an agent to help me do work with my family, I would not use like my public persona, right? Like that's how you should interact with my wife, like I am on Twitter, right? But so I think it's possible that the AI can see things about you that you are subconsciously doing, because for it's data, but for us, it's like in this blend of humanity.
We're getting super meta on this episode here.
Yeah. So it's totally possible. And it's possible that you will disagree with the things it says, but it might be right. It's like when people take personality tests, they're like, oh, I'm nothing like that. And then everyone else in the room is like, you're definitely like that. Yeah. Right. So
that is good, like 360 feedback in that sense. I didn't know if you wanted to add on that.
And I want that, like, very similar to what you were doing. Like, you were doing these focus groups. Our vision is we don't want to take the human out. I think the human still being part of the focus group is still super important. But the idea is that your AI agent could participate in sort of a discovery phase on your behalf, and then bring opportunities for you to actually go do focus groups that are very tailored to you.
Have you guys seen, and I know somewhat about this world, but like the Gap, for example, has like exact number, but like 50 million SKUs. They're like constantly shipping new things. And so like, I feel like for retail and any fashion, and it was actually from like this Netflix episode where they were talking about like the waste because they're constantly trying to create new products.
Fast fashion is being
thrown
away.
This is like huge for any fashion company, I'd imagine, right?
Yeah, you could create a focus group that's great. Like, I want a focus group of women that like blouses. Like, what colors do you want to see? What fabrics do you want to use? And again, if the company has a tons of data already on what they're buying in the past, they could start making predictions on like what these people are going to want to buy in the next cycle, and use that in real time.
Got it. All right. So we are at Ethereum Denver. So we are Web3. We talk to a lot of companies. You go outside, there's, 10 infrastructure companies. There's a million different things that kind of are basically the same, but slightly different. So this is fun because it's very unique. What is the Web3 element to this?
So, I think there's some really powerful parts, implementations for Web3 in the ecosystem. One of the key features of the platform is that a lot of the code base will be open sourced. So you can run your own thing, right? Which then fundamentally kind of makes it decentralized, right? So for example, if you don't want to give us your data, you can stand up your own version of Beelines, run your own box, and then attach it to the network, right? So we're going to be launching a platform that we call BNS, which is kind of like ENS or DNS, right? And what it allows for is discovering of resources in this ecosystem. So your agent is actually a private thing until you make it public, right? So when you make that, we call them Bs, right? But when you make that B public, it goes on BNS, and a bunch of data about that B is now sort of, you choose which data it is, but you get to broadcast some discoverability data. And what that would be, like Isaac may say he's like, into skiing or golf or paddle, right? And now when Nike comes, they're saying like, we're looking for paddle people. They can search the whole world. It would not be even made by us. Like Isaac could have made his own B, or Eliza OS could have made some Bs, or Virtuals could have made some Bs. Bs from any of these agentic platforms can get put on BNS. Now they're discoverable. Part of that listing on BNS, though, is that contract actually is their wallet. And so now all the economics are built into that wallet. So if Nike wants to work with a B that they don't know, they know how to pay them.
Yeah.
Right? Like every time your model gets invoked in the pipeline, you get paid, right? A little payment. That's another part of why crypto is so critical to, I think, executing this plan, is these are very small payments, right? Like micropayments is still a huge pain, in traditional payment rails, right?
Paying more for,
but also this dynamic orchestration. The other part of our ecosystem, which we haven't talked about, but really fundamental piece, is actually how developers interface. So Bs by themselves don't have capabilities.
Okay.
They come from the tool.
Right.
So just like when you use ChatGPT and you like upload an image, it actually goes to the image processing tool, not the text tool, right?
Yeah.
And so that same toolkit is going to be built out by us, but hopefully by the full ecosystem. So even using the example you just gave about the shopping, what would actually happen is we could make a tool, or someone would make a tool, and it's like seeing would be like train a skill. And we could just use heat mapping to look at where you look when we just show you 9 images.
Right.
Then we analyze what's going on about those images to then determine like what it is that you're interested in. And then now when you show me a picture, I now know where to look because I know what you would look at.
Yeah. This is really cool. And so I feel like a lot of people consumers would love to be a part of this. You don't need to like spend the time traveling. You
That's
know,
right.
you can get picked just by, you know, selecting,
Yeah.
I'm interested in doing this. So
That's what we wanted. We were building an ad platform. Isaac could probably explain a little bit more about it, but we realized like nobody really wants, it's not that the ads are bad, but it's like, do I really want to train something so that it gives me ads?
right.
All right. And we were end of last year, we're like, eventually we're going to know if you would like the ad. And that was sort of the light bulb moment for us. We're like, wait, we could already know that. Why are we bothering having you fill out all these things?
Right.
And so that's when you just started analyzing what we already knew about you.
That is interesting. I didn't know if you wanted to add on something.
No, that's 100% accurate. So
you did mention there was another element to, you know, a different area of the platform as well. So
yeah, so the on-chain parts, there's BNS,
Mhm.
there's a tool marketplace, and then there's a skill marketplace. And so we use a number of constructs on-chain. And I think that's where the power of Web3 really does apply to sort of what we're building with Beelines. Is by making it open, we're allowing everyone to participate, but keeping the economics pure. One of the biggest problems we have in AI today is highly extractive industry, really, right? It just indexes the crap out of everything we make, everything we say, everything we create. We never get paid, right? And we think that everyone should be paid for how their data is creating value.
Have you guys started having conversations with prospects out there, and what's the feedback been?
the feedback has been really good. I think from a marketer's perspective, that's really the target that I'm looking at. It's like, what are the tools that marketers are already using?
Yeah.
And this seems to be the tool that they really need. Because most marketers want to know, like, hey, I'm going to post a new post or new thread on Twitter.
Right.
How's it going to perform? Is this the right message that my audience actually wants to hear? And there's a really easy way to actually A/B test with your own audience in a way that you could actually get feedback before it goes live. So it actually becomes a
That's
smarter way to
fascinating.
actually market yourself, but also get instant feedback. Or another use case I've been talking to some clients about is if you're opening up a new market, right? Like you're Coca-Cola or you're Nike, and you're going to go now to the Brazilian market. Before you go even step foot in Brazil, you need to do a bunch of market research to understand like what
saving a lot of
colors,
money and
like how, like what messaging does the Brazilian market want to see? What colors do they want to see? Like new cultures, there's so many different little nuances. Most times you have to hire an agency, spend hundreds of thousands, millions of dollars to go do this. And then they do focus groups similar to what you did, where they spend a ton of money to identify and discover the right people, and then go pay someone like you $100, $50 to get for an hour of your time. If we could streamline that process, saving them money and time, becomes a great tool that someone could use to go to market in a third of the time and spend half the.
Thinking because JP too is, you know, and came from politics. Can politicians, is this a
big
they can
space,
see like, hey,
So-
should I say this?
Yeah. So
I don't
one
think
of-
Trump will use it, but
So one thing I like to say, like, because I think there's differences, right? The tool's already live today. We actually just launched this so people could actually test it out. But one of the first like MVP sort of gimmicks that we actually launched was we actually launched 48 presidents as bees. And any developer brand could come in and actually speak and ask them questions to understand like how the president would actually answer this question. Then also like you get a summary of what they all think.
That's
so
awesome.
it just becomes
Is this on video? You guys should
it's already
create
live. Like
content.
you could go to the Beelines.ai, go to the developer platform, sign up, and you could already use it and sort of play with it. But it just opens the door to understand how people could use it. But with that, something I learned over the week, it's not about it's not about speaking to Trump. It's about speaking to Trump's audience.
Yeah, exactly.
It doesn't matter if Trump likes your product. Is his audience going to engage with the product that you're developing? What is the messaging that you need to use to Trump's audience to get them to engage with your product? And that's really the key. It's not about building an AI agent that represents a human and what there's one individual things. It's about what the audience is really thinking and how do you actually get the hive to participate within that ecosystem.
It's almost two ways to use the same thing because we both came from like influencer marketing. At some point in your life, if you're doing influencer marketing, you're figuring out what do I say to get the influencer to say yes? But then once you get that part done, you still have to say something to them that they think their audience will like, right?
We could use this.
Yeah. Oh no, for sure.
Yeah.
So just some background on how much we've already put into the system. We actually indexed all of Farcaster. So we have 500,000 agents already that are directly addressable inside of Beelines.
Very cool. Is that a partnership that you guys?
No, the great thing about the Web3, Farcaster data is actually public, open, on chain. We were able to index all of it and basically generated 500,000 agents.
Wow.
But that, to Isaac's point, that's not the audience. Those are the people.
Mm-hmm.
The next tool, we're now working on YouTube. So we're actually turning the commentators into an audience also.
Interesting.
So this will probably be in April because we have a Twitter tool coming out in March.
Like Mr. Beast would love this to like.
Right. But if you're going to go buy an ad on, let's say Joe Rogan is your target audience, or Joe Rogan fans are your target audience, you can now go talk to Joe Rogan's audience.
That's genius. So you could see if you're an advertiser, you're saying like,
test copy,
will it even
you
worth
test
it
the
for these guys?
ad, you can ideate like new product ideas with them, right? And our business model really affords for Joe Rogan to actually become part of the mix.
Yeah.
And actually he could stand his own audience up and offer, imagine Rogan Insights as a thing where he's able to like pay his fans for being part of synthetic focus group.
Right, it gets them even more involved. This is actually really one of the coolest companies I've talked to for a while. This is fascinating. And it's almost like you see it kind of almost done manually. This is my conspiracy.
It's all manual stuff, right?
Like the Elon Musk parody, or there's like a fake Trump account and they'll ask like, should we be doing this?
Right.
And like, I feel like that's someone on the team that is trying to get similar, like in a manual way, what you guys are accomplishing. So that's fascinating. But what's next for you guys? I mean, I know it's like launching off the ground. You guys are live now.
Look, we're live. Everything that is currently live was built in 7-8 weeks. So the team is moving extremely fast. So look, from a marketing BD side, like I'm just very excited to showcase what we've built. The engineering team is working very hard to build now tools that in theory could go viral or capture attention to sell the idea of what is possible. Like, what could you do with Beeline and what other tools could be built on top? So we're also talking to a lot of developers like, great, this is an open source ecosystem. What tools could you build up with Beeline that are going to enhance that experience? And as Greg said, our team is already working on the Twitter tool. Just give a little sneak peek. It's going to be, you want to talk to your audience? Great. My audience is, here's my Twitter account. We'll look at who are all the people that are engaging with your account, spin up bees around them, learn about how they're writing, what they're commenting. And then once you set that up, it might take a couple minutes to spin this up, but then now you could actually speak to them. And now you're running polls. You're just chatting with them. It looks like ChatGPT, and you just get like, great, here's 10 audience members. What are they saying? How are they going to engage? And just go with that.
And is this pretty like, I know Beeline, the name, fastest thing you guys mentioned before, but like, how fast is this?
It's streaming and like you're never like waiting that long. I think it really depends on the execution time of the tool that you invoke. Right? Okay. So like a chat pretty quick, but if you're like, hey, make me a video, that might take 30 seconds or a few minutes.
The system's, but it's not days and weeks.
No. Right.
The idea is to try to be as instant as possible. Like today, you go to the tool, like it takes.
We want it like Grammarly. We want like invisible workflows, right? So my plan is with the Twitter tool. And by the way, we're using your account as an example. However, if you were running ads or promoting your tweet to a different audience, if I'm Nike, I'd also put in Adidas and Puma and Reebok and test my exact same tweet with all of them, right? And so at the same time, you can see how a bunch of unique audiences or your competitors' audiences would react to it in case you're trying to vampire them over or whatever it might be, right? And then like I'm gonna build a Chrome extension that'll just like while you're writing in Twitter, it'll just show the scores because you already set the audience up. So we can just give you a score right there, like on the tweet as you have it.
Well, I think that's a good way to kind of gain that virality is, like everyone that's employed by Nike, they're also on their personal accounts,
that's right.
And seeing this. And if they see it in their personal account, then they bring that back to their team. And
that's right.
Like, we need this. Not shilling products. We don't like to do that, but this is fascinating. I think what you guys are building is like super cool. And you guys did a great job of kind of explaining it. I'll give you guys the floor though, if anything I forgot or you guys want to share that we didn't discuss.
I think something that I've learned over the last few years is we really tried to focus on finding a problem. I think everyone's so excited about AI and all the capabilities.
Right, how to use it actually.
But we really tried to focus down, and Greg and I had a lot of these conversations back in like November and December. It's like, what is a problem that people are having that AI could solve? Like something really basic. And we really realized that it's like the focus group idea, or even just really understanding what your audience is looking for. And it's something that content creators are always having a challenge with, that brands are having a challenge with, that anyone's looking to scale is having a challenge. There was, how do we actually incorporate AI into a problem that already exists? And how do we build it to scale?
US president, Silicon Valley VCs, crypto VCs, book authors, anything you can imagine we can generate a set for, like and throw it in there just to play around with. I did top YouTubers. I didn't do podcasters yet. We'll do that too. But yeah, we can emulate. And it's really cool because like it's kind of trippy. Like some of the VCs, like I know a bunch of the VCs from like Y Combinator or
And they're
whatnot.
like, this is pretty accurate.
Well, no, but like I know them, so then I'm seeing the response written by them. I'm like, yeah, that's how Mike would say it, right?
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
you know, so it's like it's really interesting because
Cal will tell you
because they're people we know or people you're kind of familiar with or heard speak, so you're kind of seeing it. Yeah,
that is so cool. Where do they find you on X or what's the website?
So we just launched our new website. It's Beelines.ai.
With an S. Beelines, plural.
Yes, Beelines.ai. But yeah, we have a LinkedIn, we have Twitter, we set up Discord.
Isaac's at New York happy hours all the time as well.
Find me at the bar.